You weren't born ashamed. You were born pure. A blank canvas with fire behind your eyes. The world hadn't yet named you. You hadn't yet learned to shrink. You didn't ask if you were enough, because you were. Then came the masks, the voices, the punishments, the sideways glances, the labels that stuck like thorns under your skin. And somewhere along the way, you made a silent agreement. If I hide who I really am, maybe they'll stop hurting me. Shame is not yours. It's inherited, conditioned, implanted. It's the infection that begins when someone else convinces you that being you is a problem that needs to be fixed. But here's the truth. Shame is not a flaw. It is a mechanism of control. It is the leash that keeps powerful people small. It is the prison constructed by fear to keep your soul obedient. And every time you bite your tongue when you want to speak, every time you laugh to blend in, every time you agree just to avoid rejection, you reinforce the same silent lie. I am not allowed to exist as I am. But you are. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are not wrong for wanting what you want, needing what you need, or becoming who you're becoming. You are not shame. You are the one carrying it, and you can put it down. Let's talk about psyphoria, the psychological euphoria of remembering your soul. Most people won't recognize the word, but you felt it. It's that moment of deep inner alignment when your gut, your heart, and your mind all say yes in unison. It's that clarity that arrives like lightning, the moment you stop pretending, the moment you tell the truth, not just to others, but to yourself. That is psyphoria. And you can't reach it while holding shame. Because shame distorts the lens through which you see everything, especially yourself. You won't build a powerful future while secretly believing you are unworthy of one. This is the root. No affirmation can grow in poisoned soil. You don't need more positivity. You need to rip the mask off and see the beliefs beneath it. Because you don't get free by ignoring shame. You get free by dragging it into the light and watching it dissolve. Let's talk about mindset. Most people think mindset is about being positive. But mindset is not optimism. Mindset is construction. It's the architecture of your inner world. And if shame is the foundation, every belief you build on top of it will collapse. You were taught to think in survival mode, taught to scan for disapproval, taught to stay silent when you had something sacred to say, taught to equate visibility with danger. That wasn't mindset, that was conditioning. Mindset begins where conditioning ends. Mindset is when you start asking, what if the story I was told about myself isn't true? Because here's the thing. Most people don't live their lives. They live their trauma's life. They live their fear's life. They live their parents' unfinished dreams and society's expectations, and then wonder why they feel numb. You want to change your life? Change the mind that's been living it? Now belief? Belief is the engine, but shame hijacks it. When you believe you're not enough, you create a life that proves it. Not because it's true, but because your subconscious is always trying to make sense of your suffering. It wants the pain to mean something. So it builds a narrative where the pain fits, a narrative where you deserved it. But belief is a choice, not a truth. You can believe you're broken, and your actions will reflect it. You can believe you're unworthy, and your standards will mirror it. Or you can tear out the belief by the root and plant something new. No one gives you permission to believe in yourself. You take it. Belief doesn't ask for evidence, it creates it. Clarity, that sacred force. Most people think they lack motivation. They don't. They lack clarity. They walk through life like fog, waiting for someone to give them direction. But you weren't designed to follow you. We're designed to see. Clarity is not found in the world. It's forged in silence. in sitting still long enough to feel the truth rise through your chest like fire. Clarity doesn't come from avoiding shame. It comes from facing it and asking, what do I know about myself that the world tried to make me forget? Clarity is painful because it burns the illusions. But it's the kind of pain that liberates. It's the pain of rebirth. And now vision. Vision is not a fantasy. It's memory. You don't create your future, you remember it. You know the feeling, the faint echo of who you were before the world put its hands on you. The you that still dances under your skin. Vision is that voice, that whisper in the night that says, there's more. Not more to achieve, not more to prove, but more of you to become. When you hold vision, you hold power. Because nothing is more dangerous to the system than someone who knows who they are and where they're going. That's why shame was given to you early, to make you forget, to keep you blind, to keep your eyes down and your light dim, but not anymore. You don't need a bigger dream. You need a clearer mirror. Purpose? Let's be honest. Most people aren't searching for purpose. They're running from shame, trying to prove their matter by doing more, being more, achieving more. But purpose isn't about escaping what you hate. It's about becoming who you are. It's not something you find. It's something you uncover, like gold buried beneath rubble. Purpose is the intersection of truth and action. And you never touch it while lying to yourself about who you are. Purpose begins when you say, I refuse to abandon myself one more day, not to be accepted, not to be understood, not to make others comfortable. You were not born to be digestible. You were born to be divine. Discipline, not the punishment kind, the holy kind. The discipline to get up when shame says, stay down. The discipline to speak when silence is safer. The discipline to show up before you feel ready. The discipline to walk away from anyone who profits from your self-betrayal. This is where identity is reforged in the crucible of repeated truth. Shame will whisper, you don't deserve this. Discipline responds, watch me anyway. Action. Real transformation doesn't happen in your head. It happens in motion. Thought is potential. Action is power. And shame thrives in hesitation. Shame delays. Shame stalls. Shame tells you, maybe later, maybe next time, maybe after they approve. But action? Action is the antidote. Action breaks the spell. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be true. One honest decision, one boundary enforced, one truth spoken out loud that you used to whisper only to yourself. That's how you reclaim the territory shame tried to steal. Because the more you act in alignment with who you really are, the more shame begins to panic. It loses its grip when you stop waiting for someone to validate your becoming. Every time you act in defiance of your old story, you rewrite the narrative. You don't heal by overthinking. You heal by moving. So move. Even if your voice shakes, even if you're not sure, even if the shame screams louder, that scream is not your soul, it's the sound of old chains breaking. Gratitude, but not the kind they teach in self-help books. Not the shallow kind that tells you to ignore the darkness and smile through pain. Real gratitude is forged in the furnace. It's the type that says, thank you for the betrayal it showed me who I'm not. Thank you for the failure it revealed where I was still hiding. Thank you for the shame. It was the teacher that showed me the cage. Gratitude is not a distraction. It's alchemy. It's how you transmute wounds into wisdom. It's how you reclaim authorship over a story you didn't choose. Because the moment you stop resenting your past and start owning it is the moment shame has no place left to live. Gratitude ends the war within. You can't hate the path and love who you became from it at the same time. Adaptability. You must become water. Shame makes you rigid. It tells you to freeze, to hide, to blend in. But healing makes you fluid, adaptive, unstoppable. The moment you let go of the identity that shame forced on you, you realize something profound. You were never meant to be static. You are not your past. You are not a label. You are not a personality test. You are becoming endlessly. Every day is a shedding. You don't have to protect your old self. You don't have to stay consistent with who you used to be just to make others comfortable. The ones who truly love you will celebrate your becoming. The rest were just committed to your mask. Adaptability is not weakness. It is intelligence. The most powerful people aren't the ones who force the world to change for them. They change themselves to meet the moment while staying rooted in who they are. Stay fluid, stay fierce, stay true. Resilience. They'll tell you resilience is about getting up when life knocks you down. But that's only part of the truth. Real resilience is getting up without needing to explain yourself. It's showing up again and again, even when no one claps. It's walking back into your life after shame convinced you to abandon it. Resilience is not how loud you roar, it's how steady you breathe while walking through fire. Shame wants you to believe that breakdown is failure. But breakdown is sacred. Breakdown is a sign that the old system is dying. And beneath every collapse is an opportunity for rebirth. You haven't lost yourself. You're shedding what was never you to begin with. Resilience is remembering that every scar is a seed if you choose to plant it. Learning. This is where the true separation begins between those who grow and those who repeat. Shame resists learning because learning means facing what you didn't know. It means acknowledging blind spots. It means being seen not as perfect, but as evolving. But there's no power in pretending. The wisest people are not those who know everything. They are the ones who remain teachable, even when they've conquered mountains. Learning is an act of rebellion against shame, because shame says you should already know, but wisdom says you're allowed to grow. The moment you choose growth over image, you step into sovereignty. The false self is obsessed with appearances. The true self is obsessed with evolution. Learn not to prove, not to impress, but to remember what's been buried. You are not becoming someone new. You are unlearning everything that made you forget who you were. And now, the return. Because this isn't about improvement, it's about return. Return to self. Return to soul. Return to center. The journey is not linear, it's circular. You began whole. You were pulled apart. Now, you gather yourself, piece by piece, memory by memory, boundary by boundary. You return. And as you do, shame begins to evaporate. Because shame cannot exist in a person who fully owns themselves. Not perfectly, not loudly, but completely. You don't need to shout. You don't need to convince. You just need to remember you were never the problem the story was. And now you write a new one with spine, with fire, with breath. You walk back into your life not as who you were told to be, but as who you choose to be. Unmasked, unapologetic, unchained. You reclaim the name that shame tried to erase. You, silence. There's a kind of silence that breaks you, and a kind that builds you. The silence of repression and the silence of remembrance. Most people live in the first, the silence of shame, the silence that comes after betrayal, after dismissal, after shrinking yourself so many times that your voice forgets how to rise. But there's another silence, the kind that hums with power, The kind you feel in the presence of those who no longer seek validation. It's not the absence of sound, it's the presence of sovereignty. Because when you no longer need to explain, to justify, to be understood, you become undeniable. Let them misunderstand you. Let them whisper. Let them label what they cannot comprehend. Their noise has nothing to do with your truth. When you embrace that kind of silence, the one that holds no apology, no performance, no disguise, you become the storm that doesn't need thunder to shake the ground. Boundaries. You're not here to be accessible to everyone. You're not here to be agreeable. You're not here to carry what was never yours. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors. They don't close you off, they keep you sacred. They don't isolate you, they protect your becoming. Saying no isn't rude. It's responsible. Walking away isn't weak. It's wise. Refusing to explain yourself is not arrogance, it's alignment. Because shame taught you to tolerate, to over-explain, to absorb discomfort just to avoid being rejected. But healing teaches you to withdraw from anything that costs your peace. Every time you say, this is not okay, you're not pushing people away. You're pulling your soul back into your own hands. Boundaries are how you teach the world who you are. And more importantly, how you remind yourself, power, real power, isn't loud. It doesn't flex. It doesn't scream for attention or beg for a seat at the table. Real power builds its own table. It's quiet, stable, anchored. It comes from owning your scars without shrinking into them. From walking into every room without needing to dominate because you're already complete. Power doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't need a title. It doesn't need applause. It needs clarity, conviction, consistency. Power isn't something you find. It's something you remember. It's not something you perform. It's something you embody. You don't become powerful when the world agrees you are. You become powerful the moment you stop needing it to. Integration. Healing isn't about becoming a better version of yourself. It's about bringing all the broken, hidden, discarded parts of you back into the light. It's not becoming new. It's becoming whole. You were taught to abandon parts of yourself. The rage, the grief, the softness, the desire, the intuition. But those weren't flaws, they were your fire. You don't need to erase them, you need to reclaim them. Because integration is not about being perfect, it's about being honest. The shadow you fear, that's just the power you buried under guilt. The emotions you suppress, that's just truth knocking on the inside of your ribcage. Integration is when the war inside you ends. Not because you chose one side, but because you welcomed every part back home. Awakening. This isn't about healing so you can function in a broken world. This is about healing so you can build a new one. One where your worth isn't attached to productivity. Where your voice isn't censored by approval. Where your identity isn't compromised for comfort. Awakening is painful because it burns the life you outgrew. But in the ashes, you meet the part of you that was never touched by shame. You meet the witness, the one who watched you fall and rise and bleed and fight and never left. And that part of you doesn't want perfection. It just wants your loyalty. You were never meant to stay asleep in a story that kept you small. You were meant to rise, to awaken, to return.